The legend of Lloyd. Lloyd Lisco passed away about 4 years ago. He had COPD. He was in his 80s. He lived out in a nice part of Orlando. And, you know, he was a big boy from Texas. Now, we have a saying about people from Texas, and it's not the steers and queers saying. In Texas, if you're from Texas, you're either the legend or the victim. In other words, you're either the hero in the story or the story's about how somebody, you know, came and finished you off. And every Texan thinks that he's a hero. Every Texan, pretty much in some way, shape, or form, except maybe my friend Kevin Murphy, thinks that he's a cowboy that has, you know, got his own ranch and his own herd of horses, and he's in some way, you know, it's an analogy, right? But I've never met anybody from Texas that didn't have that cowboy mindset. Even my uncle, who had a big garden in back of his house, was a real cowboy in a way, because he grew this beautiful garden in a normal, boring neighborhood in White Settlement, Texas. And it was just full of, like, it was on a quarter of an acre of a lot, and it was full of all kinds of insane plants and greenhouses and everything. I mean, you know, I've never met anybody from Texas who wasn't some kind of character, you know. And foremost among these was a giant man from San Antonio named Lloyd Lisco. Now, in the 50s, Lloyd had a hot rod shop. He was a young man. He opened a hot rod shop, and he built these supercharged Model T race cars. I forget, they were called A Altereds. Sorry, not Model T, Model A. Model A Altered. So it was a Ford Model A that was pretty much not a Model A anymore. And what it consisted of was a blown, like a supercharged big block Ford or Cadillac or some kind of big V8 engine that was punched over, huge carburetor, high compression, fat cam, and a blower sitting in a Ford Model A chassis. The only thing they'd keep from the Model A were the terrible brakes. And Lloyd was one of those people that looked at an A Altered, which is already way too fast, and said, I can make that a hell of a lot faster. And so he built a very reputable speed shop in San Antonio, and then he retired and moved out here. So one day Lloyd determined that he wanted a 300 TD wagon. And I met Lloyd through my friend Tex. And if there's a bigger character than Lloyd, it's my buddy Tex. Tex is the kind of person who, if somebody gave you a hard time, instead of yelling at them or telling them to leave, he'd probably just pull out his shotgun and, you know, tell them you got two choices: shut your mouth or drop dead. And you know, I like that. That's the way we do things in Texas. There's not enough time in the day to have idle chit chat with perpetrators. You just offer them two choices: either stop being a perpetrator, or you can argue with the judge. You know, and you know, Lloyd kind of had that mentality too, but Lloyd was such a perfectionist that when he bought this 300 TD, there was never a day where he was happy with the car. The car never ran right. He had to find the top end of the car too. It was he said it was 106 miles an hour. But I took after Lloyd bought this car and we did all the basic sorting on it, he said, Pete, I got a rumble. What kind of rumble, Lloyd? I think it's from a rear wheel bearing. Now, on a 123 series, the rear wheel bearings are notoriously hard to replace because you have two bearings that are pressed onto a spindle, and you have a crush sleeve, and you have to crush them so that you have to crush the sleeves so the bearings come close together enough so you don't have excess play in the wheel. How much play are you allowed, Pierre? Oh, I don't know. How about a tenth of a millimeter? You know, it's just nothing. It's nothing. It's in thousandths and thousandths of an inch. You know, I think it's like 0.001 millimeter. You know, but things got to roll freely. And I said, okay, Lloyd, we'll replace the rear wheel bearings. In the back of my mind, I'm thinking, Jesus help me, because this is only going to be the first time we take them apart. So then the next time that I work on the car, he goes, Pete, I think we need to change the races because it's still not quite right. So we pull the back wheels and back wheel hubs and back wheel bearings out again. And I knock the races out, and I get a bearing race driver and drive new races in. I put the bearings back together and crush another sleeve. Grease the bearings and everything. So Lloyd goes and drives the car for a week. Third time. Pete, your shop's all dirty. I feel some grit in those bearings. This time I go, you know, Lloyd's paying me the whole time to do this. Not only would he pay me at 11:30, it was time to go to Olive Garden for lunch. We get a salad and a lunch portion pasta. And that was when they put romaine in their salads at Olive Garden. And he would go to me, Pete, if you eat greens every day, you won't die from cancer. He did not die from cancer. And I think he's right. And to this day, I eat my greens because I know that Lloyd knew some things. Lloyd knew a lot of things. And so one of the reasons why I didn't yell at Lloyd and tell him to leave is because Lloyd was teaching me stuff about running a business and dealing with people that nobody else was going to teach me. I wasn't going to learn any of this stuff the easy way. So we rebuild the rear wheels again, flush everything out, put it back together, new crush sleeve again. And then Lloyd calls me a fourth time. Pete, there's still some grit in those bearings. The imaginary piece of grit. How much grit is there, Lloyd? I swear there's one. Is it really going to hurt? It's going to get trapped in the grease. Pete, this thing is rear steering. We got to rebuild the hydraulic valve. So he fixed the bearings again. Then this time he puts in a hydraulic valve, the rear self-leveling valve. And he goes, Pete, I like the fact they put a double O-ring in here. He rebuilds the hydraulic valve. Dang it, Pete, this thing's still rear steering. Okay, Lloyd, maybe we should do the front end. So we do the front end. Pete, it pulls to the right. After months of this, it got to a point where it wasn't, this car is a great car, you've done a lot to improve it. It was, doesn't do this right, doesn't do that right. I'm not happy with this. I'm not happy with that. This isn't good. That's not good. This isn't good. That's not good. Finally, I got to a point where I was just like, what are you going to find to nitpick next? And then he did it. He went after the injection pump. He goes, now on a OM617 injection pump, you have unit injectors, which is a barrel with a spring in it and a piston that's sunk into the pump. This is the only Mercedes pump where they did this. 616, 617 pump from 1977 to 85. They took a whole unit injector, put it in the pump. And these unit injectors determine how high up the piston would travel and how far down it would travel, all had little shims that were graduated in tenths of a millimeter. And if you messed them up, the car wouldn't run right. And Lloyd took them apart to try to change the graduation. Not only that, but if you rotated the unit injector a couple degrees, you could change the way the car ran. And Lloyd kept messing with it. So finally I went to his house, I tried to put it back together, but unbeknownst to me, I put all the shims in the wrong places. So what did Lloyd do? He took it all apart again, cleaned it, looked at all the witness marks, and said, Pete, I think I found it. He read the stamps and the shims where they had embossed themselves into the aluminum casing of the pump and put it all back together, and then finally he was happy with the car. At the end of the whole thing, you know what Lloyd said? This car's got too many damn problems. He went out and he bought the newest, lowest mileage Chevy Astro van he could find. So the next time I saw him, I said, do you still have the TD? And he goes, Pete, I'm going to sell it because I got this nice van here. You go from driving the finest station wagon ever made to a 2000 2 Chevy Astro. There's an episode of The Office called, I think it's called House Party. And Jim and Karen go to David's house. I can't remember, the regional vice president. And Dwight goes with them. And while Jim and Karen are having a really awkward time with, what's his name? What was David's last name? Put it in the comments below. The guy who got fired, and then Ryan basically took his job. Maybe it was the other. Yeah, I think it was the other. Yeah, I think that's how it went. Dwight is inspecting the whole house, looking at everything, commenting about the staircase, the construction of the roof, the construction of the rafters. He even goes into the guy's son's bedroom and has a conversation with him about what he thinks of the house. And I think that that's maybe what Lloyd was like. Lloyd didn't buy the car because it was the best made car and he was going to put 300,000 miles on it. He bought it because he wanted to see how a car was, how a car as good as the 123 was built. Because he didn't understand how Tex and I could be driving these old 123s that had hundreds of thousands of miles on them that were running so well. At the end of the day, when Lloyd learned everything he wanted to, he sold the car to a guy from Indiana, and that guy from Indiana paid $16,000 for the car, and he said, I think I just bought the best 123 wagon I could possibly find. This is when all my invoices were handwritten. So if the guy who owns that car is watching, we got that rear wheel bearing right the 5th time, and that hydraulic valve right the 4th time, and that pump right the 3rd time. And if you're watching this, I want you to know something else. That it was always right the 1st time. If you guys watch this far, please like, share, and subscribe. Tap the bell for notifications and leave a nice comment about your own mentor. And I know Lloyd's not here anymore. I went to his funeral because he meant a lot to me. But Lloyd, if you're listening from somewhere up there at that circle track in the sky, there was never a piece of grit in the wheel bearing. Seriously, man. I'll see you guys in the future.